exposures. Born in Germany, Wagner learned early to discern the weakness of the imperial government. He was drafted into the Kaiser's army but hated Prussianism and became a revolutionary leader. Later, he forsook politics for journalism, became the editor of Germany's leading film magazine. He was a press agent for Emil Jennings and other continental stars. When I saw the framework of the European decency began to crumble, Siegfried Wagner relates, I left Germany for the United States in 1926. To me, the United States is the only true democracy, and a man is judged here for what he is, not for his racial or religious origins. As a newcomer to America, Wagner worked in labor in the auto factory. Later became an engineer, and he's one of the few men in the world to be able to understand Einstein's theory. Wrote Stephen Early, President Roosevelt's secretary. We just read this letter. The president was very glad to embrace the opportunity to listen to your broadcast on propaganda analysis. He asked me to assure you that he very much interested in what you said and liked the program very much. So that's the bottom part of the ad. Lauded by government officials, propaganda analysis experts, and thousands of personal fans, Siegfried Wagner today is addressing schools, service clubs, veterans posts, and other organizations on the theme dear to his heart, the preservation and extension of democracy. The British government once asked Wagner to render a critical comparison of the effectiveness of British and Axis shortwave and broadcasts. British officials declared there is no better authority in this field than Wagner. It's from the town of Estes Park Public Library. Dear Miss Waldrop, thank you very much for the copy of the Siegfried Wagner profile on Chase Edwin Hughes. It is a very valuable addition to the local historical collection. I've made a copy for our files and have given your copy to our Estes Park Historical Museum. In time, this monument will be indexed for your own local history indexed for our local history index of Estes Park newspapers, family memories, Rocky Mountain National Park historical notes, historical photographs, and our oral history transcripts. Sorry we are closed on the 27th, but please come and visit us again. Okay. This is an article, or this is just a letter that he had. Dear Chess, I should have answered your inquiry on May 4th much sooner, but my schedule is so pressing that only today do I get around to it. In the meantime, June Brewer and Meryl Schumer have proved to be reliable, responsible, intelligent workers here on my place. They haven't given me the impression that for the present you could not have a better tenants on the Fox farm than they and their families. If it works out, I plan to keep them here permanently and to build them homes on our place. Regarding the listening post cabin for your boys, I don't at the moment know what to say. I plan to build an addition to it and supply it with running water and rent it. So the rental after the alteration will be different from what it is at its present state, but I don't know whether I can get it done with the present building restrictions. So that's what we're going to start looking into now, is how to make a place up there. Okay, this is Mike Shot. It's February 13th, 1942. There is a present demand for radio technicians both in the military forces and in the radio industry. To help meet this demand, elementary courses in the training of technicians is now being offered here in Denver and other cities in the state by the engineering schools of the region in cooperation with the radio stations. If you're interested in this training, you can get an application blank at any Denver radio station. There is no cost to the student except for the transportation to and from classes, the laboratories, and the textbooks. Although assistance will be given the student in obtaining employment, none is guaranteed, nor is a student deferred from military service because of pursuance or completion of the course. The training offers an excellent opportunity to acquire knowledge of the technical side of radio that may be useful and valuable in civilian life as it is to the military forces. In case they ever turn off the internet, we can talk still. You need all kinds of stuff for Allen's Park also. He helped bring the power line through. The Estes Park Trail, November 14th, 1947. We hope that the Bureau of Reclamation will heed the recommendation for the South St. Vrain Association regarding the location of the power line, which will connect Estes Park power plants with the Adams Tunnel pumping plants on the western slope by Grand Lake. This is all local stuff, and most people are not going to care, but we do because it's where we live. We're listening. True Magazine. A Mysterious Hermit in Forest Creek. It's about Siegfried Wagner. And I wanted to go through and read some of his things and show the world what he found out and warned us about what would happen if we didn't listen. There's no way to explain what this guy is all about, this man is all about, until you just read it. We're listening. This is an ad on the Chicago Times, September 16th, 1941. Day and night, in every language, belligerent nations are pouring forth a torrent of propaganda over shortwave radio channels. Anything goes. This is war. It takes a radio expert and a master of languages to cover Europe's shortwave war of words. Many of the war's bitterest battles were never reported in American newspapers until Siegfried Wagner began to prowl the foreign broadcast bands for Times readers. The Times Listening Post is the only one in this country, and probably in the world, which gives a day-by-day analysis of shortwave war propaganda. Surrounded by powerful radio equipment, propaganda analyst Siegfried Wagner sorts broadcasts from warring nations and reports them in his daily column, We're Listening. If you want to know what dictators say to lash their armies to a fighting fury, what successes warring nations claim in the battlefields, what the shortwaves are saying, be sure to read We're Listening. You'll find this unique feature today on page 15 and every day in the Times of Chicago. So that's kind of what this is going to be about. Give a little background on how influential he was. This is a list of the government agencies that have utilized or praised the analysis of propaganda by Siegfried Wagner. The Coordinator of Information, Washington, D.C., Chief Irving Platham, Foreign News, Chief Ed Johnson, Shortwave Intelligence Office, Department of State, Washington, D.C., Chief Thomas Burke, Division of International Communications, the War Department, Washington, D.C., Major G.A. Lincoln, Orientation Course, Public Relations, and Major Harold W. Kent, Radio Division, Public Relations. At the U.S. Maritime Commission in Washington, D.C., Chief Clinton L. Mosher, Radio Section Division of Information, also used it. Federal Communication Commission, Washington, D.C., Chief Gerald C. Gross, International Division. Coordinator of Inter-American Affairs, New York City, Chief Guy Hickok, Radio Division. The White House, Washington, D.C., Secretary to the President, Stephen Early for President Franklin D. Roosevelt. And all of Siegfried property is connected to the Roosevelt National Forest. United States Treasury, Washington, D.C., Assistant Comptroller of Currency, Sybil B. Upman. And these are all people that utilize or praise the analysis of propaganda by Siegfried Wagner. United States Senate, Committee on National Defense, Senator Charles O. Andrews of Florida. Also, Major Gail Burton, U.S. Army Air Corps, former managing editor of the Times, Chicago, who started publishing Siegfried Wagner's daily column We're Listening on October 10th, 1939. He's given lectures and courses of lectures before the following: the University of Colorado, Colorado State College of Education, Colorado State College of Agriculture, and various scientific and public organizations. This letter is from the White House, dated July 15th, 1941, and I think today is July 17th, 2013. It's marked personal from the White House. Dear Mr. Wagner, the President was very glad to embrace the opportunity to listen to your broadcast on propaganda analysis. He asked me to ensure you that he was very much interested in what you said and liked the program very much. Very sincerely yours, Stephen Early, Secretary to the President, and that was written to Mr. Siegfried Wagner, care of station KFEL, Denver, Colorado. So, who was Siegfried Wagner? I have two articles. One is the article from the True magazine that was written in July of 1941. I love this article. And I also have a synopsis, personal background that Siegfried wrote himself. Let's start with this one more War Department letter. This is from the War Department, Bureau of Public Relations in Washington, dated January 20th, 1942. Mr. Siegfried Wagner. Dear Sir, your initial broadcast last night was received with great interest. The War Department is at present initiating a program designed to point out to the officers and men in the United States Army military, political, and economical events leading up to the present conflict. Let's read that again. The War Department is at present initiating a program designed to point out to officers and men in the United States Army military, political, and economical events leading up to the present conflict. That's just the way the sentence is. In this connection, we are compiling a series of 15 lectures discussing the progress towards involvement in the present war. For your information, a copy of general instructions is enclosed. It is requested that this office be furnished with a copy of the radio talks and any other material you would care to submit. We feel that from your experience and background, you will be in a position to help us in this program. Of course, you understand that this is a personal request, not an order, and that this letter is to be treated in a confidential manner. Sincerely, for Director of Orientation Course, Major G.A. Lincoln, Orientation Course, Bureau of Public Relations for the War Department. So what kind of background does he have, and why would the War Department and the White House be talking about what he says up here in the Rocky Mountains in the 30s and 40s? So, here he is. Siegfried Wagner, personal background. Siegfried Wagner was born in Hanover, Germany, September 22nd, 1898, the son of a father who is eternally rebellious against the Kaiser and the Reich. In the very environment of his home, Wagner learned early to discern the weakness of and criticize Imperial Germany. Thus, when he was drafted to defend the fatherland in 1916, he soon realized the hypocrisy of it all, particularly in 1917, home on leave. He found his mother and two sisters in Berlin near starvation. His sister Hilde Wagner Trussell, today the leading lady of Austrian National Theater and Burgtheater in Vienna, he found at the time deadly sick in bed with hunger, typhus. This tragic experience induced him to join the revolutionary forces in Germany. I guess it'd be to help out with the money. For nearly a year, Wagner worked for the Democratic German Revolution in the army. For nearly a year, Wagner worked for the Democratic German Revolution in the army. All this time, he carried an automatic pistol loaded with only one bullet, to shoot himself so he wouldn't betray his comrades to the Kaiser's minions in case he was caught. On November 9th, 1918, mostly on his own because there was no centralized organization of any kind, he actively helped to overthrow the imperial government in Berlin by personally taking possession of the high command, Admiralty, of the Imperial Navy, and by removing the commander of the 3rd Army Corps from Berlin from his post. He was also a member of the First Constituting Assembly of the Weimar Republic. After the revolution, he became a journalist by editing and later publishing Germany's leading movie magazines, Die Filmachoi and Filmland. He was also a correspondent to Swedish publications and, incidentally, Emil Janning's first press agent when the latter made his first moving picture. Realizing not only Germany but all of Europe's moral disintegration after the First World War, an analysis in which Europe's